Hi guys, welcome back to Evolve Africa. The conversation we're having was little traumas due to public demand, by the way. Say due to, bringing back part 2, it's here. So joining us is Lawrence Magaya, the founder of Unicorn Stables. He is back, the reason why this always occurs so beautifully. So Lawrence, always a pleasure having you. Always a pleasure having a conversation with you.
Thank you.
Yes. So
I think we were talking about my dad's death and how that takes a toll. And it's important that if there's a way for people to have conversations around the exit of one parent or either parents, it's always important, because when our parents exit, we never expect it. I don't know if we live lives where we think the people around us will be there eternally.
Yeah.
But you realize that that is a conversation that is taboo in our society. So people don't really talk about it. But I think it's important because of what I went through. It's important for us to just have these conversations of, one day I'm going to leave, and when I leave, this and this is what I want done, or this is how I want you guys to live. It just takes away a lot of conflict. It takes away a lot of misunderstandings in the family, and just sets things straight, but also prepares you psychologically that in case this happens, this is what I'm supposed to do, or this is how I'm going to handle it. You even start making these preparations early in terms of assuming that parent is not there. How do you survive?
As a child?
Even if you're a child, because you see, by then, I was in my 30s, I think, but it wasn't easy. Because it's something that just happens, especially when it just happens. For his case, he was murdered. So it was just something that happened. He was not sick, that took time, and then you go through that process. But it's not even easier for people who someone was sick. Either way, it is just a tough time. And then you realize there's so many things, especially when you're still depending on them, that just go wrong. Because you're grieving. You're not sure what this is. You only know that it happens to other people. It's never happened so close to you. So it's a very confusing time. People think that the loss of a parent is like that of like a grandmother or a relative or a friend. It is very different in the sense of you never know the connection you had until you lose it. Yeah, so right now it's easy to say, I can stay away from them. But when you lose that connection, when you know it's eternally gone, handling that is very different, especially coming from a parent. It doesn't matter even if you hated your parent or you love them. Once that you get there, that experience is a completely different experience. It's not something that you can comprehend, Yeah. Yes, but once you go through that period, you start to understand people who've been grieving or people who've lost, other people who don't have parents, orphans. You're able to understand them because you've experienced that pain. But before you experience such a pain, it's very easy for you to just think that it's an easy experience. I remember 3 weeks after my dad's death, someone asking me, "When you've not gotten over him?" And I'm like, I'm sure they've never lost someone close. And now imagine this is your dad. So that was very intense for me, but also to understand how much people don't understand about loss. Because 3 weeks later, someone asks you, you've not gotten over it. These things take 10 years and you don't even get over them. You just learn to live with them.
I don't think you can get over.
No, they are deep. And also means that I think it's important that as you get into relationships, understand someone's past. Because the moment you're able to understand that, okay, this person is coming, this person is an orphan, you must understand that there are battles that they are fighting that you have no idea about. When you understand this person has lost a parent or, there are battles that they are fighting deep within, there are traumas that they are handling that you have no idea. So you must try to get to a place where you're able to figure out how do you handle this person, because they may just lash out at you because it was a time when they've remembered something, or they're angry because maybe by the time the person who's living, they were not in good terms, so that keeps haunting them. And these are traumas that actually we go through, and we have no idea that they're actually eating us up. Or you're walking, and that day you see someone who looks like your parent, because people look alike, or someone sounds like your parent, and they're already gone. And so you wonder what to do with those emotions. So you're angry deep within, you go home and you either lash out or something just happens. But these are traumas that are hidden deep within, that maybe also we don't find professionals to talk about. And that is why even professionals would sit you down and try to understand what is your past. What are you dealing with? Most traumas come out of things that we are dealing with, and things that were not tackled. And most of the things that you realize that were not tackled were things that happened to us when we were kids. Most trauma come out of, some of the things that happened to us when we were kids. But also along the way, you might find work causes you trauma, experiences with friends, people you regarded as close friends that end up betraying you. So you get traumatized. You see people who sound like them or who look like them, and there you are traumatized. And you're like, I just hate this person. You don't know why, because they look like someone or because they sound like someone, Yeah, so if we get to a place where we start to understand that we are fighting battles, everyone is fighting a battle. Therefore, a bit of understanding and just being kind sometimes might do the trick. When someone is lashing out, don't lash out back if you can. When someone is making mistakes, try to find out before you just fire them. They're at work, they're down, they're angry that day. Don't just tell them, you can't continue working here. Try to have an understanding of, hey, what is going on? Have conversations. Spaces in workplaces where you can be able to have conversations and understand what maybe some of your employees are going through in their personal lives. You find maybe a lady has a child at home, and the house have just left. They've left the child maybe in a daycare. They are just absent-minded. They're wondering what's going on with their child. But because you don't have these conversations, this person might do something on that day, and they get fired. Not because they want to, just that they are fighting many battles deep within. But now for me, getting over that was just being busy and finding a new passion deep within. Because like I mentioned, I was used to be a music producer, but then I started doing film. I went into film and I got into books because I wanted purpose to live. Because you see, when you're going through grief, you get to a place where you feel like, what is life like? Life loses taste. I don't know if it means something, but you realize there is something that is gone that was so huge. Life has lost taste. You don't know what to become. So I found new passion. I started reading books on film, trying to understand what this is all about. And that helped me with the grieving period. Some people go to the gym. It helps. It's just a way of relieving stress. When you're in a certain situation, let's say a stressful situation for a long time, it might break you. But if you're in it once, let's say, instead of being in it for 10 hours a day, you're in it for 30 minutes, you're still dealing with it. It will take a bit of time, but you're not constantly in it because you're busy doing something else.
Let me ask you, isn't that like escaping, like trying to get an escape and not really facing the situation? And so maybe probably you won't heal fully because you're trying to hide behind the work. Because I see men doing this so many times. They overwork, they over drink, they probably have a lot of relationships out there, just a distraction to not face the real problem. Is that healthy?
I would not call it a distraction. I would call it an expression. Yes. Okay. So you find that I have a cry in me, but this cry is not going to go out through tears. Okay. This cry is going to go out through maybe working out. You know, I go to the gym and I have this energy in me that is painful, but I need to express it. So how am I going to express it? So it's an expression, but it's different. So some people might say it's escaping, but I don't think it's actually escaping. It's an expression. You know, it's like when I would say when you're an artist and a form of inspiration comes and you start to draw, it's not escaping reality. It is an expression of an energy deep within you. So if I was to look at some of these things that you're going through as energies, so you have this pain within you of grieving, and you find something that you're able to do. You find that you derive something out of it. It's a cry, and that is why sometimes it's important for us to understand why is someone doing whatever they are doing, because it might be an expression. A good example would be if you have a spouse and at some point they go quiet. They're not escaping, they're expressing, they are saying something, only that they're saying it in silence. You know, instead of lashing out and going like, "Where sasa nini kwa nini," and banging things, some they go quiet. But do you say that they're escaping? They're actually...
We call it stonewalling. Why is stonewalling me?
Is it called treatment also?
Silent treatment. Which is abuse as well. But they're expressing.
They are saying something.
I love you. Understanding.
Yeah, so when you see someone go to the gym, they are saying something. When you see someone going to drink, they are saying something. Only that sometimes when it overwhelms them, that is when it's bad. But an expression, it's you just maybe need someone to hear it and help you walk through it. So my expression was in books and trying to understand, get knowledge, you know. And it didn't take a short time, because it's over 10 years now, and almost 10 years now, and still at the back of my mind. But it's not as intense as when it was fresh. I remember when I heard the news, my stomach closed up. I don't know how to explain that, but I remember I couldn't even eat. I lost appetite, literally. It vanished. And for like four days, I was operating on some new energy because I wasn't eating and I wasn't feeling hungry, and my stomach sort of closed up. And I went through that for quite some time. I would look at food and I would not even have an appetite. So you can imagine if that continues for 10 years, then you're in trouble. Yeah, so you need to find ways that you're able to work around that, because some of these news are not the best.
In a society where it doesn't allow men to be vulnerable and to just say, "I'm in pain," and you're told, because I know you have a sister, and you're told, "Be strong for your sister, be strong for your mom. You're now the man, you're now in charge." And you're not allowed to cry, and you're not allowed to even appear weak. How do you overcome grief as a man?
I would say, for me, my understanding of be strong does not mean don't cry. And I don't know why, maybe people have thought it like that, but being strong might mean take it in and handle it, take charge, take control, as opposed to don't express what you're feeling. For me, it also means, how would I put it, merge with the situation, embrace that situation so that it doesn't break you. You know, the moment you have pressure on yourself and you pushing back, you break. So it's like a wind and a tree. When the wind is blowing a tree and it's pushing back, it breaks. But when the wind bends to it slightly, the wind just will, pass through it without necessarily breaking it. So what you're being told is be flexible. Embrace the situation and don't let it break you. That is what you're being told. So I don't believe being strong should be pushing back at you assume this thing is not happening. I want to believe being strong means lean with the situation. Relax, be flexible with this situation and understand this situation has come. Embrace it and do whatever this situation is trying to do to you so that you're able to overcome it. That is the whole idea, I think, behind being strong. But maybe you find in the society, the moment they tell you do not express, then that is a problem. Because expressions are not just in tears. Expressions are in many diverse ways. But the expressions that need to be stopped are expressions that will cause damage. So if every time I am angry, I want to punch things, that is bad expressions because I will get hurt. If every time I have emotions, I express it through breaking glasses, that's wrong. Okay? But now we have to figure out good ways of relieving these expressions of pain. You know, it's like, what do you do when you're excited? If you're excited and you laugh, but what if you're excited and you cry? It's not a bad thing, but it's a weird, you know, I'm so excited, I'm just, I'm crying. You know, but it's an expression. And no one says one is good or the other is, but it's an expression. But then you have to say, if this expression brings pain to you or to others, it's not really a good way of doing it. So if your expression of grief is drinking, it may not be good because you're messing up resources. You know, I usually say sometimes drinking is a curse in the sense of you pee your resources.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's to be done with control. The moment it takes control over you, it means you will pee your resources. Sometimes I also joke and say, a car is a curse. I'm sorry to say this. I know people have cars out there. Sometimes I say a car is a curse in the sense of you burn your resources. You go buy petrol and you burn it. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but if you look at it in some direction, I've seen people who spend all they have in maintaining their cars, in trying to get a car to prove a point in the society, only for it to come and then they keep burning more resources. So some things are to be gotten at the right time when you're flexible and strong enough, not things to be acquired to try to prove a point. And we're living in a society where an expression to prove a point. So if for me to prove a point to you means buying a car, regardless of the costs and the implications, just so that I can be seen as someone in the society, that is, to me, not the best form of expression. So we need to have a way where we encourage good, we allow people to express themselves, and we also encourage what does not break someone, because there are people who want to express it in a wrong way. Some people want to express grief or want to express pain through eating, but that can be dangerous as well. There are people who want to express it by not eating. Some people want to express it by being silent. It's not just tears that are an expression of pain. Pain is expressed in many diverse ways. Therefore, when a man is told, be strong, he's not being told, don't cry. He's just being told, embrace the situation, let it mold you in a manner that it won't break you. Yes.
You know, most conversations I have with you, I go like, wow, 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 because I've never looked at it like that. And you're not escaping, it's an expression.
Yes.
So now your dad has passed away, and that's I don't know, your dad like, in a way, guides you into marriage. So now you need to get into marriage. How do you do it?
You see, coming from traumas and understanding that our life, if we look at your life, anyone, if you just look at your life backwards, you realize that where you are headed to is defined by where you've been from. There's a saying that I did not use to understand what it meant when they said, if you want to know where you're going, look at where you've come from. In other words, they were just saying, you see the things that you've been through, they're telling you where you're going. Or in other words, the experiences you've had in life in the past define how you will handle things in the future. So the little traumas that we've gone through growing up, not knowing that they're traumatizing us, they end up making us make decisions on things like marriage. Because coming from a point where you're not confident, you've been heartbroken so much by different people, so you have this pain deep within you, and then you realize, now I'm supposed to choose someone to live with for the rest of my life. The question becomes, how do you choose? You know, do you choose based on you liking them? Do you choose based on them liking you? It's a very tricky place to be in.
Very tricky.
Do you choose them because you don't want to be hurt? So you make sure you choose someone you don't love? So that even if they one day wake up and say, I'm going, you're like, you just go. You feel nothing. You know. So these little things that we go through in life, there's also this saying that we have where they say, when you want to get married, now when it's time to marry, rudi ocha. Tafuta sura ngumu. You know why? Because there is also a notion that goes around that beautiful women are a problem in marriage. So if you don't want trouble, don't find a beautiful. So there are so many things that you're looking at, and coming from a traumatized space, you're trying to make sense of all of this. If a beautiful woman hurt you, I'm telling you, you might not want to have a beautiful woman for a wife. You know? So it's a very tough place to be in, based on what your past experience has been. And you might not even know that it's these traumas that are guiding you. It is these traumas that are shaping your decisions, you know? So you might end up making the right choice. You might end up making the wrong choice. You never know. And the other thing that I tell people, I think when you want to get into serious relationships, is you must understand one thing, that change is the only constant thing. Everything else fails, but the only constant thing is change. You know, you've had situations where people say, oh, may change, you may change. It's expected that people will change. I will change over time. When I was young, it means 10 years later, I will have changed. I won't be the person you met 10 years ago. The question will be, 10 years later, when I look at my spouse, have they become a version that after 10 years, I would still want to be with? And because of the rigidity that we have in the society, that is why most people start saying, you've changed, then they break up.
But you're supposed to change.
Yeah, you're supposed to change. That's the whole idea. So the question is, as you change, do you change in a manner that the two people still want to continue being with each other? You know? So if you don't understand these things at this point that you want to make these serious decisions, you'll make a serious decision because, sorry to say this, maybe this lady has a big ass, and that is all. And then you forget, okay, things might change.
And you get used to it, you don't even notice it.
Let me just say this, but we're also living in a society where most marriages are made because of big asses.
And
Umecheki haga. Hey, ude wakona haga. That is how marriages are made by young boys and young guys. And it's a bad decision.
Terrible.
Yes, because what happens when that haga is normal? Amekuwa number 11. Ameacha kuwa figure 8. Now we're in the socialite age, where the bigger the ass, the better the woman. I mean, it's a crazy time we're living in. And people are making marriage decisions based on this and forgetting you have your little trauma. So you get into this relationship, you brought in your traumas, you've not had conversations. You've not had conversations on how do you engage, how do you relate, what is your past. You know? And most marriages, you know, there's these funny things I see as memes where people say that most marriages huanza na but then niko na ball.
You know?
You know? Marriage ilianza na but then niko na ball. So what is that?
How do you think we should get into marriage? That's a $1 million
but you
question.
see, I know some people talk about premarital counseling, and that is where it comes in handy, because when you're being counseled, it means you're talking about your past, you're talking about your traumas, you're trying to be vulnerable so that you two understand each other, whether you're compatible.
Yeah.
If you don't go through such a thing, or even just the two of you, you don't have to go to a counselor. Can you be vulnerable enough and say, you know what, when I was at this age, this and this happened to me, therefore this still bothers me, assuming someone was raped as a child. You get married. There are days where intimacy will be a problem. Okay?
Yeah.
Because it might be, that is the time when this thing happened. So how do you get, without knowing, maybe they're afraid of having this conversation, you realize there are certain days where she behaves different or he behaves different. You start suspecting, you know?
Imagine. It's true.
Yeah, but it might be coming from this time something happened to them that was so traumatizing. I don't like giving examples because sometimes when you give examples, we talk about people. But this example would be someone who was molested when it rained. It was raining. Every time it rains, it comes back. And they become a different person. And you're living with this person in the house, and you've never had these conversations. So you just wonder, but you don't even make the connection that it's the rain. And maybe they themselves have forgotten to even make that connection. But you just realize there are seasons where this person is just hectic. They are moody, they're angry, they don't want to be touched. They want to disappear, and you think they're having an affair, but in reality, it is not. So trauma that they don't know how to express, they don't know how to deal with. So open conversations as you get into relationships, being vulnerable, are very important. We've been taught not to be vulnerable. Where I think the thing about being strong is don't be vulnerable, don't share your weakness. But what we really need to do is get to a place where we are at a society where we can share our weaknesses and they're not used against us. Because that's what people fear. Ati niende niambie msee alafu aniende anionge. Ama that fear is there. We are not our brother's keepers. You know, we need to start keeping our brothers.
So much strength in vulnerability.
Yes, so much strength. Because now, what will you use against me once I have made myself vulnerable to you? It's like, what is it called? Blackmail. People only have power over you because you give them power. Someone will blackmail you because you're vulnerable in a certain way. They're like, oh, you know what? If you don't do this, I will say that you did this and that. Now you're being blackmailed. But the moment you're easy with it, you're like, let me even go and tell them, you know what? I did 1, 2, 3. You've denied them the power.
Love that, yeah.
Yeah, so sometimes some of these traumas, we deny them their power over our lives when we become vulnerable around them. And we just go and say, you know what? This and this happened to me during this season. Therefore, sometimes during these seasons, this happens to me.
Let me ask you something. Do you think people should heal from their traumas before getting into relationships?
I don't think there's ever healing from trauma.
Getting in a position where you can handle it.
I would say traumas are many. You see, once we cannot look at one instance and say this is the only trauma. So, and every day is a traumatic experience you're going through. Birth itself is a traumatic experience.
Yeah.
But that is just for the mother and for the baby. Okay? Life growing up every day is just traumatic. Let's look at what is going on right now. The cost of living is crazy. It's traumatic because maybe people with salaries, the salary has not gone up, but everything has gone up. It's a traumatic experience. So you cannot wait and say, I have to heal. But I can say this, you can get to a place where you embrace your weaknesses, your traumas, where you can see it. You see, the moment you can see it, it won't bother you much. The moment your partner can see it, it won't bother you much. It's like, once you understand someone is mad, you know it does not bother you. You know that person is like that. Hata ushaisikia watu wenye wanasema aye ukuwa hivyo. Because they have understood. Hamanishi usijali, hamanishi Kenya anasema. Because you're seeing through it. It's become a light now for you. A darkness has become a light. Once that darkness becomes a light, it stops to bother people. As long as they know, ukimwona kifanya hivyo ujue ni na it has become a light.
Yeah.
As opposed to where people don't know. So they see you maybe talking and they think you are aggressive. Come, you're not aggressive. This is just how you are. That is maybe how you talk. And when people are not used to hearing you talk, they think, umse ako na ubaya. But say uko na ubaya. That is how you talk. That is the nature of your voice.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. So once this happens, it becomes easy, becomes a light in a dark place. So I don't think you can get to a place where you say, I'm healed of all my traumas. You have this trauma today, tomorrow you face another trauma, the next time maybe you're walking and someone steps on you, and when you turn to talk to them, they punch you. You've developed a trauma of walking in crowds. It never stops.
Yeah.
You know, so you go through so many things in life that are traumatizing. It's just about, if you're able to understand that there is a way traumas affect our lives, and they change us in a certain way. And therefore, the people around us that are close to us need to understand that these are the things that make me become like this. Therefore, when they see me like this, maybe they either need to understand me, or if you know once you understand that when this person is angry, they lash out, the best thing to do is for you to walk away and then come back when they've cooled down. You see, you've come up with solutions because you might not get this person to heal immediately. If my way of confronting a situation because of my traumas is lashing out, wewe nini unasema wewe hakuna kitu, and I start hurling abuses, maybe you just need to leave for a few minutes and then come back and that anger is gone. So that is why it's important that we have conversations. And I tell you, unajua mimi kwa na hasira. So nikiwa na hasira, hey, yumi upanda sana. So ukiona nimekasirika sana, what you do, just leave for a few minutes and then I'll be okay. Can we have these conversations where we are vulnerable?
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah, it might be the light in that dark place that saves so many people's lives. But if you don't understand that, and then I start catching na wewe unaanza kunirudishia, it'll be another problem.
I think in today's society, there is, I don't know, marriages are failing at such an alarming rate. Why do you think that is so?
Like I mentioned, umecheki udem, you hug. And then, but then unajua niko na ball. So when marriages are based on that, kuna udem rangi ya thao, like, udem ameiva. Like, you see the conversation out there, especially for young guys, because we don't have places where people can go and talk about some of these serious things. That becomes the basis. And when something is once something is a trend, you want to belong in that trend.
Yeah.
If a certain, I mean, people who look a certain way are the trend for that moment. If for ladies, it is money. Money is the trend, or a car. And that is how you want to floss to your fellow women that you have someone who works in a certain job. That is a trend. That is how marriages will be made.
But if that is the case, Lawrence, there's a statistic I read and it said 50% of first marriages fail and 70% of second marriages fail. So it means if you got into the first, and 30% of that marriages fail. So if it means you got into the first marriage due to Uyudem Haga, as you say, then the second marriage you should do better. But how comes now the chances are increasing and they're becoming 70% more compared to the first marriage?
I would say, remember, when you're younger, you have time. As you grow older, so a 20-year-old girl has time, so they can deny a lot of suitors. Okay? But then let's assume uko na haga, when you light skin, upate chali, you get into your first marriage, juu ako na Subaru na anafanya kwa bank.
True.
Okay? Then you mature up, you realize, hey, by the way, you know, I'm a human being separate from this guy. I also need my own life. Then you are not able to understand each other, you divorce. Then you're like, hey, ile attention tena haiko, because now ulipata mtoi, vitu zimehappen, umechange. So what happens this next time? Maybe you'll be in a situation where, hey, each time, I think you've been for 3 years without anyone or 5 years without anyone. You're just open to anyone who shows up. So your second marriage becomes based on whoever showed up. It doesn't matter your standards went now. It's just whoever shows up, you know? So you realize maybe you're slightly mature, you know what you want, but no one is, you don't have that demand as a lady. And then assuming now that does not work because of some issues, but most of the time you find that might not work because of you got married maybe because of loneliness, or maybe to teach the other person a lesson, you know?
Yeah.
So chances that the second one will fail are much higher. And maybe you find out by the time you're getting to your third, you realize, hey, life is short, by the way. I need to settle down.
Yeah.
So Koreal, hey, by the way, njoo mwenye napata sahi ni kukaa. We are going into our sunset years together. Hapa no games. So maybe that's why you find maybe the third marriage might survive.
Yeah. But on a serious note, what should we look for to ensure this doesn't happen before getting into marriage?
I would say
those things?
Understand that there are traumas. And these things that we overlook are what make our personality. And if we don't find a way and a society that is able to talk about them, be open about them, and understand that is our humanity, you know, that is what makes us human. Let's not have so many of these little secrets that we are macho. mi ndo ule msee, hakuna kitu inanishtua. No, kubali, unajua mimi spiders, for me I have a problem with spiders. Mi nitahama hao juu ya spider. So when you get married, tell her, unajua by the way mimi nina shida na spider. So if you see a spider, don't come, you kill it. Ones are the hairy ones.
Yeah.
Or the black widow. I see that mi nahama, ama tuchome hao. Be vulnerable.
Yeah.
But wewe ati unaogopa spider, mi hapana. Mi siwezi kana msi yako na spider, ijulikane mapema, msiingie into anything. Other than ile siku anakwenda, hey, darling, kuna spider, ndio unakaa unaangalia, unapiga manduru. Anashindwa, what did I marry?
Yeah.
You know?
It's true, yeah.
So later on they're like, kwani nilimari mama? Hai, huyu anapiga manduru hivi akiona spider. But it has come late. So I'm just trying to say, if we are vulnerable early enough with one another, and we even if you're coming into a relationship, can we be open and say, but then unajua mimi nakufuata juu ya do. That is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
It will save us a lot of problems because we come with different hidden intentions, and then
I agree.
Once our intentions are not met, are not fulfilled, we want out. You know? So can we just be open and say, but then mi nakupenda juu ya haga yako, na sijui nitafanya aje haga yako ikiisha. Can we
so maintain it?
Yeah, let's have this conversation. Because I might get
physical appearance. Honestly, you should get married to someone you're physically attracted to.
Yes, but we realize we don't want to tell this truth. We don't want to tell this truth. We want to come in with hidden agendas. Maybe you're a lady, you see someone in a Range Rover, and then that is what makes you find them attractive. But can you just tell them, hey, you know what, Mimi, actually I like you because of your Range Rover and your house.
So without it,
so are you okay with us getting into this? But you must understand, the day the house and the Range Rover goes, I go. I don't know if I'm making sense.
But I agree, honestly, I think it's everything. And if there's an institution we have placed so much expectation in one person, I think it's marriage. You want them to be your financer, your best friend, your pastor, your everything. I think that's a lot of demand on one person. And when they can't fulfill this, a lot of disappointment and and now you want to.
I would say that we're also living in a time where kuomokaya madem ni chali. I mean, let us be honest. There are ladies out there, and the society right now that you're living in, this social media society and socialite society, where ukitaka kuomoka tafuta chali yako na do. I don't know. You know, once that is the foundation of relationships.
I cut you.
Yes.
I think it's because they say also sometimes you build with a person and then when you get there, they lose value for you and they go look for better people. So there's a lot of emphasis on money and stuff. Well, I even think the emphasis should not be on money. It should be on other things like how are you compatible spiritually, because that plays a bigger role. How is your chemistry? Do you find yourself physically attracted? What are your values in terms of money, in terms of just small things? What are your values? What are you looking for? Like, do you want to ever change? Because you know there are people who just are comfortable without changing. And there are people who really want to change. So I don't, as much as we put money as if it's the goal, I think it is the goal because all this we didn't look at all these other things. And then the person now, when they get the money, they become their true versions.
Yeah, I would say, to just add on that, I would say, ideally, if we were to get into a relationship that is long time, we should be very careful with character. Character is more important than anything because, you see, especially for a lady, I usually say that you marry into decision making. If you're Christian and you go by scripture, the man is the head. Therefore, they're the ones who should have the final say when it comes to decision making. Therefore, if you submit the Christian way, so a woman is to submit to the husband, it means that the decisions this man is going to make need to be good for you and for him and for the family. So if you marry someone who has a bad trend in decision making, you have buried you and your family. But that is not something that we look out for in this day and age, because most of us claim to be Christians and following the Christian way. That's why you get into marriages and you can't come out because but did you understand that this was going to be your head? And therefore, this is the person that is going to make decisions for you until the day that you die. And it needs to be good decisions for you and your family for the rest of your lives. Yeah. Imagine if you're not living in a concrete jungle, you're living in an actual jungle in the forest. And this man is the one that will say, hey, we are following this way, and it's a shortcut. You're marrying this man because you are sure that instinctively in his decision making, he can make right decisions and take you through ways that will not put you in harm or your family in harm. He will not take you through shortcuts that have snakes. You go step on snakes and you get bitten. So remove this whole new society, but imagine you're still living in the forest. What are you marrying a man for? Someone who is able to instinctively make decisions that will favor long life for you and your family.
You know, I think the thing that makes submission difficult for women is when you feel that you're not the final decision maker. There are other people above you. And so I would fully and comfortably submit to you if I knew, you know, Lawrence is the final one. And he's proven the decision. Even if we're going into a hall, we'll go together because I know it's Lawrence's decision. But now when I feel there are other people above you that you need to consult, then it becomes a crowd and difficult to submit to.
Yeah, I'd say now for that's why I'm saying you're marrying this person for their character. So that's something that once you understand that that would be a point of contention or a point of conflict, then find a person who is able to make decisions, but also able to make the right decisions. So assuming you're looking for a husband and I'm looking for a wife, and we go meet in a club and we always drink and party like crazy, and then that's the relationship that you're getting yourself into. You know, what form of decision making is this? Of eating our money and peeing it every day. Either way, your money, you'll still eat it and poop it or pee it. But in a situation where there are other things that you could have done, you know, other than clubbing every day. But then you expect that once you say I do, things are going to change.
Yeah, that's the thing. We get into marriages expecting people to change, not realizing you just get more of that person. There is no change that happens.
Yeah. You'll be at home with a kid as a mother. He'll continue partying out with his friends. So what you married someone knowing that this is how they make decisions when it comes to their money. They want to party, but at that time you were young and you wanted to also party. But you forget that 10, 20 years down the line, partying is not what you really want. You want security for you and your children.
Yeah.
You know? So it comes down to, as you find this person and you want to settle down with them, how do they make decisions? When someone's akimwita mjinga wewe, ana lash out, anaanza kupigana, are you sure you'll have a man for the next 40 years? Ataenda lash out huko nje apigane adungwe kisu akufe. We want bad boys, fighters.
True.
Or you look for someone with a calm personality. Anaambiwa mjinga, don't look at it as weakness. Anaambiwa mjinga, you're like, it's all right, bless you, man.
How is that a bad thing, Lawrence?
I'm just saying, because when if I'm with a lady, and msea tuite wajinga sisi, and then you're like, it's all right, bless you, man. You're the wise one. Dema ataniangalia aseme, mimi siwezi kutaka kana mseka huyu, haiwezi kutudefend. But I assure you, you might live longer with this man than the fighter. Because now if he wants to fight everyone, Concord is jam anataka kufight. Si atadungwa kisu akufe 2 years into marriage.
Yeah.
And then you forget, if he's a fighter out there, he'll be a fighter in here. So you want a fighter out there defending you, but one day when you will also cross him, I usually tell people, you want to know how one day you'll be treated? Look at how he is treating other people now. Don't ever think that you're special at that moment because you have love bubbling. One day you will also become that person who he has gotten used to or she has gotten used to. So if she left you for someone else, know that he will leave you or she will leave you for another. That is who they are. You know? So don't ever think that because you're in love, you're special. I just look at, okay, so this man, when people say this, or when people get him angry, this is how he behaves. One day you'll get him angry and he will behave like that to you.
And I don't think at love and I don't know what makes relationship work. Because you're separated. Okay, like I am also separated. So anyway, if you look at all the separated people when they were separating, will be like, do you love him? Do you love her? Yes, but you're separating. So if love is the thing that makes things work, I don't think so. I think
there's much more to it. There is, you know, it's like saying money makes things, like if money is happiness. No, happiness is many things. First of all, money cannot just be happiness, because maybe happiness is what that money can do for you, you know, but money in itself is doesn't, you know, so we can't just bottle up one thing and say it is the solution. It's a variety of things. Maybe a calm and quiet plus money, you know, might be happiness. But there is more to it. It can't just be like when you have this thing, then you have attained happiness. Therefore, love cannot just be it. It is love, maybe with respect, maybe with so many other things that build it up, so that you find that you feel you're in a place where you belong. You know? Yeah. So.
But you also need it, because you can't be in a marriage with people you don't love. But it's not everything.
I would say love is overrated. In also this sense, if it is just a flood of hormones in your head,
then
that is. But there's a way. It's about tolerance. It's love that is tolerant. It's a sense of tolerance to each other. You know, let me just go to scripture. I remember one day telling someone that if you just love people when times are good, then that is not love. Love is tested when you have every reason to hate, but you choose to love.
Yes.
So the test of love is hate. So the question is, when the fire is burning and all you have is to hate, you want to hate this person, but you're willing to tolerate them, then you can tell this is love. It's not about at the good moments, you look at someone and you just disappear and in your head and you're in love. No. The question is, when you love someone, it means this person will drive you the craziest and you will still tolerate them.
That's true. And so you should look for somebody who you'll have a life story with and not a love story. Because some people, you just have a love story, it ends, that was a good trip. But now you should look for someone who you'll have a life story with.
Will you tolerate them at their worst? When they are poor and nothing, will you tolerate them? When they are wealthy and all, will you tolerate them? That is what really love is. Love is not about just this feeling of you're feeling chills when they show up and butterflies and you're like, hey, you know. No, it's not just that. No, it's more than just that chemical. It's more also of the character and the tolerance in you, so that you know, it's like when you have a child and they do something you really hate, you don't kill them.
You don't. You love
because
them.
When you love them, you will tolerate it, but you will try to correct it. And even if they go against you and they become the biggest thug in that place, you still have that heart for them. And when everyone else talks bad of them, you would still want to talk good about your kids. Because that is what basically love is supposed to be. So imagine that in our relationships.
How do you find that?
I don't know. I will not tell you here that there's a way to. Because remember, again, people change. So you might find that person when they're in that state. And then as they grow, they get out of it. Okay? Yeah, life is complicated. If I was to say that life is simple, I'd be lying. Life is so complex. If you look at the universe, you understand the complexity of life. Life is so complex, you know? You look at kids that grew up with good manners, you find them in their teens, they've changed. You look at kids that were so troublesome as kids, but then you look at them in their old age, they're so disciplined, or in their teenage, they're so disciplined. So you cannot just say this and this is what it is. I remember there's a saying that says, is it usidharau mkunga wakati uzazi ungalipo? or
What does
something.
that mean? I'm not good with that.
Yes, so, but in other words, or what it tries to say, or what I'm trying to say is, before you get a child, okay, don't look at other children and say things about them. You don't know what yours is going to be.
True.
Yeah, because don't ever think that yours is the one that is going to be okay. Because life is very unpredictable. You might be saying, mtoto wako ni mbaya, and you even go and report them and do bad things to these kids that are in that stage, but you don't know what monster yours is going to become. You know?
Yeah.
So we have to understand that the complexity of this society we are living in requires high levels of tolerance, where we are able to understand one another so that we are able to live peacefully together and not expect everyone to have my thoughts and to have my likings. Okay? Yes. And then you'll find that even during elections, we won't have trouble, because it's okay for you to have your own ways and your own ways of choosing. And it's okay for me to have my own ways of choosing, and you should not castigate me for choosing the way I chose.
So your ability to be single is in a way what makes a marriage work. And me respecting your ability to be single
is to understand that I have a life and you have a life, and your life is as important as my life. And I need to help you build that life, because one day you'll have to face death. And one day I will have to face death. And by the time that death comes, I need to have lived my life. And you also need to have lived your life. And therefore, because we're both living our lives, when we get together, we are happier. You know? But when everything revolves around my life, when are you living? You're being choked. You're being killed before your time. Therefore, you'll get to a place where you will rebel, or I will rebel. Okay? And I'd want to live my life. And I'd feel like I can't take this anymore. I need to live my life. But the moment you understand that, okay, so we sit down and I'm like, what is your life? What do you want to become? And they're like, I want to travel. I want to travel the world. But you ask me, what do you want to become? What about your life? And I'm like, I just want to sit in the couch and watch TV. We're like, we won't be compatible. So you go find someone who you can travel with. Or will I be okay with you traveling the world while I sit in the couch?
So these are things you need to figure out before you even get into marriage.
Life is very complex, and the desires and wants in people are very complex. I remember one time we were having a discussion, and we were talking about some of these church weddings and stuff. I'm not saying it's bad, but I'm just saying you find that before anyone is a saint, or before anyone claims anything, they're human beings. And human beings have certain tendencies. Okay? Therefore, you find that, let's assume you're a pastor. Okay? And you're marrying this lady, or you're marrying this man. And you have your own ways of being fulfilled. So it becomes hard to try. And how do you start that conversation of, I don't get fulfilled this way, can we try this? Because you're human and you have your own fantasies. It becomes a very hard conversation, because you're coming from a place of, this is wrong, so many wrongs. And then you realize the marriage will break, because your way of fulfillment, you cannot even express it to your wife or your husband. Therefore, what happens along the way, you'll have to go find that fulfillment outside, so that when you come back, you appear that pious individual. I don't know if I'm communicating.
You are 100%.
Okay.
100%. And I agree. We really underestimate the role religion plays into marriages, but it plays such a huge role negatively sometimes, that if we are not open and vulnerable, as you said, it breaks marriages.
Yes. Because you have this notion of, this is wrong, this is right, this is wrong. But there's a place where you're like, for me to be fulfilled, I need us to do this. Maybe I need role playing. Leo nataka ujifanye we ni nasa. Can we be honest? The things that break marriages are small things like that.
Very small.
Because in my mind, I am not getting the fulfillment I want. I have fantasies in my head. So how do we align and, But now when I'm a pastor and I start telling my wife that, I go like, hey, did I marry a devil?
Yeah, imagine. Imagine. We demonize demonize everything.
Yes.
And spiritualize everything.
Sometimes you're a human being and you want just to be human.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Maybe
with your best friend who is your partner.
Yeah. And you need to be very vulnerable with them.
Because they're the only people who should get you honestly in life.
You know, it's like in the African way we say, tunapenda kula na unaosha mkono unadishi. Sasa umeenda Madina huko umekazia tu life, unakula tu na mafok mpaka unashindwa hii hata sishibangi juu unataka tu kuka chest iko juu yani but you want to go and just be like ukifika home si tena uko tu unajichoka unachokiwa. You want just to washa mkono na ukule hata kama vidole zetu unaingizanga ndani, you eat like that. It's your space. And let that person be tolerable with that kind of behavior. That is all I'm trying to say. So it's not just in food, it's in so many other things because life is so complicated. Can we just be that vulnerable and even express what we want done to fulfill our lives? And if we can express this earlier, the better. So kama mimi pasi na nataka kunini na kuambia, by the way, you know me, I have this 1, 2, 3 fantasies. And I don't know if when we get into this relationship, we will be able to achieve these things. Akuambie, hey, mimi hii ikifika hapo, achaneni mapema. Si baadaye ndo mnaanza kufight.
You know, they say marriage is the only thing that you're given a certificate before you go through the course.
But again, I think we have lived in a situation where we are macho. We know it. We see ni wajuaji. I think we need to achana na ujuaji. Tuko na ujuaji mingi. If someone tells me today that they know how it's going to turn out, I'll be like, okay, good luck. Nobody knows. Don't laugh at someone's marriage because it's failing. You have no idea why it is failing. Don't look and point fingers and say, unacheki baba nani? Hey, asikuizi anaenda nje. Don't do that. You don't know what yours will become. Wei, kama uko bado na uzazi, mkunga wachana naye. Just look and go like, God, help them. And help me too. Because if it's happening to someone, you also it might happen to you. So you might start getting ready, getting prepared. But you're living in a society that just wants to talk and laugh at others and say, hey, you know, nani. No, when you look at that, I would rather we cry. We cry because that next can be your child. You know, that could be your child next, who gets someone who ill-treats them like that. Yeah. But we are a society that points fingers, and if we can stop some of these things, things might change. If you can have open conversations that these are the possibilities, you're getting into marriage, these are the possibilities. It can fail. And when you see it failing, don't stick in there until you're killed.
Do you think people should get into therapy when the relationship is still good?
I think I'm not a huge, I don't advocate for a lot of therapy because you see the solutions are with us, not with someone else. But it's the reason why we go for therapy is because we've disagreed so much, we need someone else to help us to agree. But the moment you realize you've disagreed so much, you want someone else to help you agree, I think it's already too late.
What if you go into therapy when it's still so good, when you're still in love? So
but why do you need, why do you need, so you don't need a third party to tell you how to, because it's not you. Imagine doing something that you're natural at, as opposed to doing something that you're forced to. If I tell you, you wake up every day and pick a duster, but you like washing clothes. So washing clothes comes to you naturally, but kupiga duster is a hassle. So we'll go for therapy, and this therapist will put things in me that I don't want. It's a hassle to do. So even before you get there, it's important that before even getting into marriage, maybe you have these therapy sessions to just understand, are we compatible?
That's the point.
Yes, that yes, it's important because for that compatibility, it is not just on looks. It is not just on money. It is on so many other levels. It is on our past, our traumas, our expectations.
So that I can get your trauma, you can get mine.
Yes, and to say, okay, I think the perspective of you that I have, if this picture you've painted is truly who you are, I am willing and able. So you come and tell me, unajua nini, mimi na hii urembo yangu yote, mi nataka do. Na kaa huwezi kutafuta do, Nikwambia enyewe mimi naweza kujaribu, lakini ile do max naweza kuwa nikikupatia ni 5k a month. Hii inakuweza ama bado? Oh, sema mimi I want $1 million a month. Nikwambia bas. Before you go into it. Especially in the society today that adores money.
Yeah, you know, that's the thing. You keep bringing money. And I'm asking myself, isn't marriage a fulfillment of purposes, where you bring your purpose, I help you achieve it, and I bring mine and you help me, and we can merge them into a beautiful thing. But now if it's money, you know, it's draining, because sometimes we'll not have money. Sometimes we will have money. And does it mean you should get me money because you're the man? What if I make more?
You know,
what happens now?
Different societies have had different baselines for engagement. I will give you an example. There's a book I'm reading right now about the colonial time and when the settlers came in. And what would happen is the settlers that settled in Kikuyu, Kiambu, Thika, when they took over the land and they drove out around 3,000 Kikuyus, they put them in reserves or camps, okay? Now, from these camps, they were living in deplorable conditions, but they had to go and work in the settler farms and go back in the evening, and you had to have a kipande. But then there was a different situation in Rift Valley, where there was vast lands, and the settlers that went there decided to take in Africans who were willing to work for them, and they were given land and told, wherever I have not planted anything you can plant, you can grow. Okay? So what happened is the ones that were living in a reserve became poorer with time. The ones that were living with the settlers became richer with time because they would plant their own things. They would get paid when they work in the Mzungu farms. And then they would sell whatever it is that they had planted, give a certain portion to the Mzungu, sell the ones that they had planted, and they'd convert it to money. So they would be wealthier. So what do they do with this money? They would go to Kisumu, go to Turkana, buy goats. So they would keep their money in the form of goats. So something very interesting started happening during that colonial time. In Kikuyu and the Kiambu areas, something very funny started happening in the sense that parents started telling their daughters that were already married to divorce their husbands, because the bride price that was fetched from these regions were about 3 goats, because goats were very expensive and they didn't have money. So they would divorce their husbands, go get married in Rift Valley, because the bride price there was 99 goats. They had a lot of goats. They would give goats. So you can imagine this situation started happening during the settlers' time. What was the driving force? Money. So go get married to a richer person, leave this poor person. Also bring us more goats so that we are also wealthy. That became a baseline for that period of time where people would want to go and get married in the Rift Valley more than in other areas. Something else also used to happen was during circumcision, there are people who would circumcise. They started preferring going to circumcise in the Rift Valley than they preferred to go and circumcise boys in the Rift Valley, because they would get more goats than. So maybe just in ending, I would say the society has changed. And today with the socialite society, the heroes of our girl child are these socialites out there. They're flaunting money. They're flaunting sexy bodies. They are constantly talking about how, you know, they have done well. They're living in big houses, big cars. What are we telling our young girls? When you want to omoka, this is the easier way. And most of us want the easy way. Most people don't want the hard way. You know, then you come and see maybe someone who studied for, did their PhD. They are being paid maybe less than what this lady makes in a day. When people come and tell you they bought a house for 20 million and they are young, what do you expect? Someone young in campus is prettier, better than that who has bought a house for 20 million to start thinking. Won't they be tempted to think this is the way? Men can give me money. I can make it in life through shortcuts. I don't have to take the long cut. I don't have to suffer like so-and-so who is went the ideal way and they're still suffering till now. Yeah, so these are things that I think the society needs to start talking about. But the most important thing is, as we get into this place of marriage, let us consider our traumas, what we never even thought were traumatizing.
Yeah.
Maybe you go for that therapy that you're talking about, then you realize, hiya, that is a problem.
Yeah.
You know, because most of the time we don't realize that these things that we underwent have made us to become what we are. But then when you realize that these are the things that have made us become what we are, you're like, so that will affect me later, or that can affect me. You know, you trace the root of your anger problems, you realize it's because something happened somewhere. Maybe your dad disowned you and then you developed anger problems.
Yeah.
So maybe you need to make peace with that, and then you'll find that peace that you really crave. So being vulnerable, having conversations, and understanding that it's the little things that make the big things.
Yeah.
But let's not just look at the big things. The things that lead to a divorce are not big.
That's the thing. People always unachapangwa. No, they always think it's either violence, cheating, or what? Because those are the two main ones. Cheating, violence, and money.
Yes.
Yeah, they always think these are the three things, but normally it's
the small things.
Smallest things.
When you talked to him last, what did they say? You know, when you asked them for something, what did he do? Small things that build up, and then you're like, hey, me up, I can't take it anymore. It's not like it has started with being beaten. It started with small things, and then you get, na imefika hapa ni kupigwa, and then you go.
And funny thing, Lawrence, you know what? People who are in abusive relationships sometimes, or cheating or whatever, they stay. And sometimes people who divorce, they've divorced for the littlest.
Yes. I think there's need for more conversations. There is also need for what we call the church to be a little open-minded and to understand there are two aspects to a human being. There is the normal human being, and then there is the religious or the spiritual human being. And these two need to intersect. And they need to both be addressed. So if you just address one, there is an imbalance. These two need to be addressed. The need for someone to eat, they will get hungry and need to eat is there. It needs to be addressed. And the need for someone to find something bigger, something spiritual is there. And these two, if you don't address both of them, there'll be a problem. So address the need for someone to eat, nourish their flesh, and address the need for someone to find a spiritual experience, nourish their soul or their spirit.
Yeah.
Yes, that's
I agree 100%. And I think that is such a good wrap, 100%. Now you guys know why the videos are always up to are so amazing. You've seen the face, and he's amazing like that. So at Evolve Africa, we said when life gives us lemons, we make lemonade. Yeah. So cheers.
Cheers.
Bye.